Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Home Video Library. I'm your host Nathan P. Butler. This time we take a look at the first of two new releases here in December 2024, at least in the US, not in other parts of the world quite yet, that are basically Disney Plus series being released on home video on physical media. But we will find that there are several things that are different and noteworthy about this round of releases compared to the previous ones. New iterations, new evolutions within the narrative history of Star Wars on home video. And as we are hitting the holiday season, I don't do this a lot. If you'll indulge me for just a moment, let me suggest that if you are someone who loves Star Wars home video collecting or knows someone who does, it's the holiday season. A great gift idea might be my book, my 3-volume set, A Saga on Home Video 2nd edition. If you are curious about it, I won't belabor the point, but Volume 1 is available. It covers the live-action films, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, through releases up to the end of 2015. We then have Volume 2, which picks up in 2016. It covers the live-action films, so the 11 live-action films up to that point. And then, of course, we have Volume 3 that covers basically everything else, behind the scenes, TV series, etc., etc. is released in late 2021. There are 3 versions available for each on Amazon. If you're curious, there is a print replica Kindle version, which is used on devices that can use print replica Kindle stuff, like magazines and whatnot. So not e-ink readers, but other Kindle devices or the Kindle app. That's great because you can zoom in and see the pictures in great clarity, and it's the cheapest of the options. There's also a paperback version on regular paper, all full color as well. There's also, of course, these hardback versions that have the hardback cover with the art on the cover, glossy paper, again, full color pictures throughout. All pictures from my own collection across all 3 volumes. You're looking at about 1,000 pages total and about 1,500 images. Again, all taken by me from my own personal collection. So if you're into this kind of stuff, this might be the time to pick those up. And I will stop talking about that. I will not promote that again until next holiday season. At least here. I would note that there is a companion series that just launched recently to this series called Star Wars Home Video Year by Year here on the channel. At this point, we are up through 1985, looking at Star Wars Home Video literally year by year. I plan to record more episodes right after recording these today to continue on through the latter part of the 80s as we work our way towards the present. And I will probably mention the book in one of those episodes as well, since we're hitting the holiday season. But then I will not touch it again until next holiday season, I promise. So let's take a look here at the pattern that we have seen in a couple of different ways when it comes to Star Wars home video releases for this Disney Plus stuff. In the US, what we've seen now is 3 waves, where each wave has included 2 products, typically alongside a couple of Marvel products as well. And in the US, at least, the options have changed every single time. Okay? And what we found, for example, is that the first wave was Mandalorian Seasons 1 and 2. Now, I'm not going to show the little subtitle thing with the names of all the stuff. It's going to hold up a bunch of groups of stuff here until we actually get to the product that's our focus here. But remember, in the US, Mando Season 1 and Mando Season 2 that released at the same time, they had 3 different versions available in the United States. You had a 4K only version and a Blu-ray only version that were widely available, and the Disney Movie Club was still around at the time, and they had a Blu-ray DVD combo pack for both seasons. One of the seasons also got a mini lithograph if you order from Disney Movie Club, so Disney Movie Club did have some exclusive stuff at that point. But Disney Movie Club was dying. So then we get to the second round of releases, and the second round of releases are Obi-Wan and Andor. Now it's 2 copies, not 3 of each. You've got a 4K only version, a Blu-ray only version, but there is no Disney Movie Club exclusive version with Blu-ray DVD this time. Disney Movie Club is winding down, no more exclusive media releases or anything like that, but they did still offer a mini lithograph to go with that batch. But then Disney Movie Club just died. It's done. It's gone. It's history. So you would think that what that means for this third round is that we would see 4K as a release, Blu-ray as a release, and then we would have no mini lithograph, right? Disney Movie Club scaled back from having an exclusive version in a lithograph to just a lithograph to, hey, just nothing. Just a 4K version and a Blu-ray version. But you would be wrong, and in many cases for members of the audience in the US, sorely disappointed as well. Because this round of releases for Mandalorian Season 3, which we're looking at this time, and then Ahsoka Season 1, which we'll look at next time, only was released on 4K discs in the United States. Not only is there no DVD version, which existed for Mando Seasons 1 and 2, but not afterwards for the other series, there's also no Blu-ray version in the United States for these. It is 4K only. The Digital Bits has suggested that perhaps it's because it just didn't sell well enough on Blu-ray for those previous releases that they just focused on 4K. But either way, whatever the reason might be, that is one noteworthy thing in the US, and that is the fact that we are looking at 4K only. And before we get too far and people start losing their minds over that fact, let me note a couple of things in context with that. One is that you don't have to necessarily buy it from the US. The Blu-ray is being released by, well, we'll find that it's not Walt Disney Studios Home Entertainment anymore. That's another point to get to. But the current Blu-rays and 4K discs and everything that you can get for these new Star Wars films, or the new Star Wars series, it's all region-free stuff anyway. You can pick it up from anywhere and watch it anywhere. So if you want Blu-ray, there are options for this round of releases, just not in the US. If you wait just a little longer into the first quarter of 2025, you can pick them up, for example, from the UK. What did we see in the UK for those previous releases that I just mentioned? We saw 4K and Blu-ray combo packs, or I should say UHD Blu-ray and standard HD Blu-ray combo packs with each round of releases. Well, at least according to the listings on Zavi and on Amazon UK and so on right now, it looks like the releases that they're going to get for Mandalorian Season 3 and Ahsoka Season 1 are going to be the combo packs again. So if you want Blu-ray copies of Mando Season 3 and Ahsoka Season 1, there's a way. But not in the US. You will need to import it from somewhere. And that brings me to a point I wanted to make more broadly about this whole idea of going straight to 4K, because there are a lot of people who are upset about this. The reason I'm not terribly upset about it, just kind of disappointed, is the fact that, you know, I'm a Star Wars home video collector. I've been doing this for a while. I've been studying this stuff for a while. I've got stuff from different regions, different time periods. And one thing you notice is that, frankly, different regions do different things at different times with different media, as media phases in and out of popularity. For example, in the US, you could get Star Wars beta releases, but only until the latter part of the 80s. You could still get beta releases of the THX remastered editions in Mexico in 1995. If you wanted to look at something like Laserdisc, for example, the last Laserdisc for Star Wars in the US, 1997 with a special edition trilogy. But in Japan, not only did you get The Phantom Menace on Laserdisc, you also got the 2000 trilogy set on Laserdisc, not just VHS. Or you can even look at something like VCD, which wasn't even a thing in the United States. What did we see? Most regions, they might have had an original trilogy set. Most regions had the prequel trilogy, but then that was effectively it. But not in Indonesia. They kept going. Clone Wars, Spark of Rebellion, Force Awakens on VCD. Now with Blu-ray 3D, right? Blu-ray 3D has effectively died in the US for Disney. So what happened? Where did we have to go if we wanted the Blu-ray 3D disc? Well, most people turned to the UK. Except in the UK stopped as well. So now the primary place to go is Japan if you want Blu-ray 3D, where they are still doing releases in that format. On the other hand, we have seen other regions shift to 4K only even before now. Remember back a few years ago where we had Australia and other parts of the world, but Australia, for this particular set, get new trilogy box sets that the US never got? Well, remember, Australia got a 4K only set of trilogy boxed sets. Regions differ, regions change. Now Australia doesn't get physical media typically at all from Disney. Things change over time. And the fact that we sort of phased out Blu-ray 3D earlier and are seemingly leading into phasing into more 4K a little earlier in the US, that is not terribly surprising, but it's always something that feels like a shock when we start to see that pattern emerge as we're transitioning across media, especially physical media, in an age when physical media itself is very much falling by the wayside in many respects. So that is one thing I wanted to address that is a little bit different with these. There are another couple of noteworthy things to talk about, but we will talk about that when it makes sense within the process of looking at the product. So let's finally dig into that. I know there was a lot of introduction, but I wanted to say it all here, so I'm not repeating it in detail or breaking it across two different videos when I do the Ahsoka one that can be a little bit pithier than this one. So here is the only release in the US of The Mandalorian, the complete third season. So there's your J card on there. We'll look at the J card in just a second. You'll notice right off the bat, it's a steelbook, right? Just like the last 2 waves of material, all these Disney Plus series being released on physical media, it is steelbook only. There is no option out there to get a non-steelbook version of an official release of Mando Season 3. So the cover here, got Bo-Katan featured prominently there in the center with Grogu, the new ship, and Mando and all. Star Wars The Mandalorian, the complete 3rd season. The spine here, Ultra HD Blu-ray, Star Wars The Mandalorian. No, the complete 3rd season with the logo, because of course there is the 3, so they can all line up nicely on your shelves. Then the back side here, shot there on Mandalore. I think that's an artist signature there. Product number, legalese, and Lucasfilm. Obviously, there's no way to compare this yet to the UK version that we will see, but remember, typically in the past, the UK versions of these, if you are going to do that to get the Blu-ray, they're matte finish, not glossy finish, slightly different coloration to the copyright stuff on it, but generally speaking, a very equivalent product for the most part, with the biggest difference now being that it'll actually have Blu-ray in it as well. Before we pop it open, let's look at the J card. So we have our shot here of the open steelbook with art cards, which we'll look at. Collector's Edition 4K Ultra HD includes bonus extras and concept art cards. The bottom there of your J card, just Star Wars The Mandalorian, the complete 3rd season, as one would expect. Nothing fancy. Then here's the back, Collector's Edition 4K Ultra HD, the complete 3rd season. Shot there of the open steelbook, the discs, and the art cards. 2-disc set, tells you which episodes are on discs 1 and 2. Brief description of the season. Never before seen bonus extras. We'll talk about those in a second. Your stats and whatnot. Various logos, legalese, ratings, Disney Plus, and so on down at the bottom. As to inside, we have art cards again that we will look at. The interior of the steelbook is just a shot there on the surface. Okay. Notice, US version, we got these nice prongs to hold the art cards so they don't get damaged. Only 2 discs to hold. As to the discs themselves, we have disc 1. Again, it's that same style where it's basically, hey, we're going to have this like silver regular type of disc. Let's just do like an outline kind of thing with the color so that it's actually the silver shining through that helps make the image, but also makes it pretty damn difficult to read. So we have Star Wars The Mandalorian, the complete 3rd season, disc 1, episodes 17 through 20, 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, Lucasfilm. We have our helmet image on the side here, that sort of technical assistance little block there. Dolby Vision Atmos. We'll come back to that. Region ABC and legalese around the edges. Second disc effectively the same, episodes 21 through 24 on disc 2 with the armor helmet there, but laid out the same way. You got your 3 art cards here. Here is 1, 2, and 3. As to the number on the back, 127094338. Remember, typically there is a slight difference in glossy versus matte for the cards. If we look at the UK version later, and the product numbers here on the back will be different for each card rather than the same for each card, but a very minor difference if your big focus is on being able to get the freaking Blu-ray discs to go with it. And before we look at bonus features, 2 big things stand out that I mentioned that are sort of changes now. Remember, Dolby Vision Atmos. So Dolby Atmos sound is not a new thing for Star Wars physical media. However, the Dolby Vision thing, that is a big freaking deal right now with these releases. Have we seen Dolby Vision on a Star Wars physical media release before? Yes. The original release in 4K of The Last Jedi did have Dolby Vision. But when they reissued it in the Skywalker Saga box set and in other regions individually in 2020, when they reauthored the disc, goodbye Dolby Vision. So Dolby Vision really hasn't been a big thing for Star Wars physical media at all up to this point. So it is a big deal that that version of HDR, high dynamic range, beyond just like HDR10 and that sort of thing, is now to be found on these new releases from this batch, Mandalorian Season 3 and Ahsoka Season 1. So Dolby Vision users, rejoice, you finally have that superior version of HDR on this physical media. So that is one thing that is a big deal. The other, you really can't tell unless you look at the fine print here. Let me read to you the last little bit before the address and date and whatnot of the legalese down here. Distributed by Sony Pictures Home Entertainment. Yes, as we have seen Walt Disney Studios Home Entertainment shrink down which regions they were releasing in and what formats they would release in across each region, there was some question of whether or not Disney would continue putting out physical media or continue to pull back. It seemed like there was a bit of a resurgence because suddenly we were getting Star Wars Disney Plus series on physical media. But how would this all shake out? How would they make that still viable in an era when physical media is slowly dwindling in the face of streaming? Well, the way that they handled it was to hand off the distribution process, at least for the US and Canada for sure, but hand off the distribution process to Sony Pictures Home Entertainment. So now Sony will be handling the physical media production and distribution of Disney stuff. And in this case, at least, thanks to Dolby Vision, it looks like Sony is pushing out a superior product. Maybe they're making up for the horrible Spider-Man universe without Spider-Man crap movies that they're putting out right now compared to Disney's MCU. But in any event, Sony has now taken over this physical distribution, so we have now seen another iteration. Remember, very early, it was Magnetic Video Corporation with some of the earliest Star Wars releases on home video, not film, but home video. And of course, that got sort of reorganized and folded into 20th Century Fox Video. Then we had CBS Fox Video and Fox Video, 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment. Then the jump to Disney with Walt Disney Studios Home Entertainment, and so on. So we've seen these different names, and in some cases actually switches of distributors over time, depending on who had the rights and who had that licensing deal and whatnot for the physical products. There was the whole issue of A New Hope being with 20th Century Fox in perpetuity, while the other ones went to Disney when it came to distribution rights, and all that stuff we've talked about before. And this is just the newest step in that broader evolution. The shift from Walt Disney Studios Home Entertainment to Sony Pictures Home Entertainment for new Star Wars releases, or anything coming from Disney that would have been under Disney's own banner previously. So, a couple things that are a pretty big deal about these new releases. So, before we go, because I know I've spent a lot of time giving you all this background and context here so that I don't have to do it with the Ahsoka episode as well, let's take a look at what the bonus features are and a little bit about how long they are for those who are curious. This is not as robust a set of bonus features as we will see for Ahsoka in our next episode, but there are 3 featurettes here, or features, whatever you want to call them. We have Honoring the Magistrate, a tribute to Carl Weathers. It's only about 4 minutes long, but it's crazy that in the span of the time frame of these series that released around the same time and then just got released on home media at the same time, we saw 3 deaths, 3 prominent deaths related to it. Carl Weathers passing, Ray Stevenson passing, and Shauna Trepsick, who was just the amazing costume person for Ahsoka. We saw all these people pass, and they do take the time here to do a special feature on Carl Weathers, what he brought to the show, the energy he brought, and so on. So that is definitely cool to check out. He, of course, played Grief Karga, for those who don't recall that. We then have Galactic Legacy, the creatures and droids of the Mandalorian. Galactic Legacy is basically, it's the Legacy Effects studio, so all these practical effects and whatnot that go into the show, which is really cool to see. I was surprised by how much was practical rather than digital. I guess it's practical with a little bit of digital touching up. Very impressive stuff. And then we have Forging the Covert Part 3, which is just sort of discussing Season 3 in its broader strokes. I will say that Dave Filoni talks, we have Jon Favreau talking, Bryce Dallas Howard talking, but there's not a ton of the actual actors from the series actually talking. Like, at no point does Pedro Pascal actually show up as part of one of the interviews, unless I just blinked and missed it. Or Katie Sackhoff, for instance, just blink and miss it, I believe. It is much more the behind-the-scenes people than the on-screen people that they're focused on. But as far as those go, those are both about 12 minutes long. So you have about almost half an hour of bonus features here on Mandalorian Season 3. Well worth checking out. They are not fluff bonus features. They are interesting bonus features. I still wish that they had put that Mandalorian, what it was called, like the roundtable discussion thing that they did a while back on Disney Plus, put that out in some way, because I love those roundtable discussions. But what we've got here is still pretty cool. So if you're in the US and you can play 4K discs, which means either having a dedicated 4K player or perhaps just having yourself a gaming system that will play 4K discs. Our first 4K player was an Xbox Series S, though that eventually caught on fire. No, I'm not kidding. It caught on fire during an update when it was in standby mode. And now we just play our stuff mostly on a PS5. Though we do have a dedicated 4K player that's in the other room in case we wind up wanting to swap it in at any point or anything like that. But if you have a 4K player, this is definitely one to pick up. I imagine there'll still be some controversy about this for a while because not everybody has made that jump to 4K discs at this point. Even those who use gaming consoles that can do 4K, you might have a digital-only, for instance, version of a PS5 that can't play the discs. It's that kind of growing pains kind of period that we're in right now. But if you want to get it in the US, this is your only option. Remember, if you want to get it from overseas, like the UK or somewhere like Germany, there are 4K and standard HD Blu-ray options available, just not here. Lots of information in this episode, lots of coverage of changes. That'll let us be a little bit more succinct when we talk about Ahsoka, which we will see in the next episode. With that, we'll wrap up this episode. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the home video viewers.